Hey everyone, it is Jodi here. I realized I'm a few minutes late, but time goes so fast when you're getting those last minute things together, writing a list of what you're going to talk about, getting all the cords hooked up. And so it always takes a little longer than I have. I'm a multitasker. Who out there is a multitasker? I do a lot of things in a short period of time, but I love it. So good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy International Women's Day. All of you who identify as women out there, this is your day to know that you're seen. And maybe not everyone in your life sees you, or you might not feel that in so many ways, but you know, there's changes coming. And equity is coming to the forefront for every category that is has been minimalized over the last centuries. That have been a problem. So, so today is celebrating women. All we have to endure, all the wonderful strengths that we have because we've had to endure it. All of our talent and wonderfulness that is invisibilized a lot of times in so many of our cultures. And so this is our day to celebrate. I answered a question in another group earlier today about, I was actually a therapist, and this therapist was having a relationship with her, not a relationship, not an inappropriate, but we all have relationships with our clients. It's basically a relationship. It's not an inappropriate relationship. It's we relate to each other, every person to person is what I mean. Okay, so this person, I don't remember what gender they identified with, but they were saying that basically the person is intimidating to them, and it could definitely happen in any relationship. And so I thought it was really interesting because, so many of us are interfacing or interacting with people who are toxic in our lives. And go back, if this is something that you could relate to, that you feel like, oh yes, I've had relationships where there's been with a toxic person, or the relationship is toxic and it's a really difficult relationship, and I know that I'm hurt by it. Go back and watch the last few videos, because I did a video about setting boundaries, and you'll need to watch that video. It'd be really, really great for you. So, so what do we do when we're in these relationships that we know that are not good for us? And I just want to, over the 25 years of practice, obviously, this is how I've helped my clients and my friends and my family members when they're in these kind of relationships. These are the most important things to keep in mind. So I thought I'd share that today while you were, because it affects all of us, even the therapists, right? So it affects all of us. So I thought, while I'm waiting for you to type up what you want to ask me today, because this is live coaching, so you could ask me anything, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the things you want to think about if you're in a relationship that you feel is harmful to you. Okay, we're not saying the other person's toxic. I don't want to label them. There's obviously some selfishness. Sometimes selfishness is intended, and sometimes it's not intended, but people could be very selfish and have no idea, just no self-awareness about it. So they're not necessarily a bad person, but they could be affecting you in negative ways. This is the thing, is sometimes we don't intend to be a jerk, but we hurt each other. And impact is the most important thing. We are responsible not just for our intentions, but we're responsible for our impact. And so this is the hard part when you are on the receiving end, because when you know somebody well enough to know that they don't have bad intentions, but there is a negative impact, you tend to forgive them, especially if you're nice and kind and sensitive and empathic. You tend to forgive them and allow them to keep doing that. And that's what we don't want to do. So this is what I said to this person in this group. I said, these are two things to keep in mind when you want to end a toxic relationship, or you want to transform or change a toxic relationship. One is you need a community. That's why a lot of times in abusive relationships, people isolate you from your friends and family because it makes it harder to get out of that relationship. That is why it is done. You stay isolated, you stay in that negativity in your head, and all of their words to keep you pushed down stick because of that isolation. So you need a community. It is a million times harder to get out of a toxic relationship without a community to support you. So that's something you need to build up first while you're in the planning stages to leave. And then planning. So sometimes you can't leave because there's structures that are put in place or needing to get yourself protected when you leave and all the kind of logistics of it. And so in the process of planning, this could be empowering, right? Because a lot of times when you're in a toxic relationship, we beat ourselves up for being in that relationship. We defend ourselves too, but we're beating ourselves up for being in there. So if you know that you're staying because you need to do it right, you need to do it safe way. If you are, and it depends on what kind of relationship you're in, if that's more complicated or less complicated. Some relationships you could be like, see ya, because you're not as intertwined. Sometimes you've been in these relationships for a very long time and there's a lot of your life intertwined, so it takes a little bit of planning. So making that plan, starting to plan that you're going to leave, does make you feel empowered. It does eliminate that self-beating yourself up, which is going to keep you exhausted and heavy and not able to leave. Okay. So, and then while you're staying, you have to kind of figure out like how not to let it in, how to see yourself differently than they're trying to let you see them. All right, let me see what Nikki said here, and then I'll come back to the last bit I want to say. And please, if you're on, say hello, and tell me what you're thinking about. You see my face up here. You see my eyeballs. Okay. I learned that in life that you manifest your energy let me say that again. Sorry. I learned that in life you manifest with your energy anything that you want. It was fascinating at the beginning, but with a step back, it triggered guilt and shame. What about abuse? Does that mean even kids have attracted to abuse to themselves? No. No. You kind of realize, Nikki, I think that doesn't totally fit. Yeah. So things happen to us in the world, right, that are out of our control. We can't control other people. So other people we don't control how other people act. And when you're little, you can't even control leaving them, right? So of course, that's not your fault. And so when you're older, maybe you could control and contrive in a way to get out of those kind of relationships or be not available for them in different ways. And so, yeah, so when you're older, you want to, construct for yourself some way to help yourself, and you'll need a community to do that. Let's see. So you manifest anything with your energy. That's a really simplistic view of like the law of attraction. The law of attraction really minimizes the context of our lives and the inequality there are in many structures around in our society, and the many structures in our society that keep people down so that other people could stay up, right? So there is like these discourses in our culture that encourage things to happen that are abusive, right? And so, so we are not, and there's part of it that if you can, okay, so it's so much more complicated than just simply like you're manifesting everything in your life, because you also could see the patterns of allowing something to happen all the time, right? If you keep this pattern of relationships, so a person could have a pattern of relationships over and over. You get into relationships with people who do the same, treat you the same way. Who's had that happen to them? We've all had that happen to us, where we continue to, because those are familiar, those are like we understand them or something. We feel like we're in more control because we get those people. But it's like if you dated somebody nice, you'd be like, oh, but they could hurt me at any time. At least I know this mean person. I know what to expect. You feel a little safer, but it's not safer. It's a bad person for you, right? So in a way, you can perpetuate these patterns. So that doesn't mean as a child you asked for it or you brought that energy into your life. So it's complicated. You're trying to do like a black and white thing for a different kind of concept. So it's not that you have no control over how you think about stuff, how you think about the other person, how you allow them to affect your heart, all those things that you do have control over. We want you to know that you have control over that because that's going to really help. But the things that you don't have control over, we don't want people to take over responsibility for stuff that is not their fault. A lot of people take over responsibility for toxic relationships because that person has told them over and over and over in gaslighting that it's their fault, that it's them, that's why they do that, that, you know, that kind of stuff is insidious and it continues long past that person is gone. Us having guilt and thinking that we caused the problem. That's why it works. Okay. I know I'm not being concise. I'm all over the place. There's so much to talk about this topic. I probably could do like a whole like day workshop for it. But one of the things that I thought was really important to tell this person in the group this morning was that sometimes that guilt that Nikki's talking about, that guilt that like, well, she's talking about it as like the guilt that I brought it onto myself. Like if I cause this, then it's my fault. But also there's a guilt that keeps people staying in these kind of relationships because you feel bad for the other person. You know, the other person's pathetic and really sad and having a difficult time in life, right? You know that. So you kind of feel like, oh, they didn't do it on purpose and you feel bad for them. And it's horrible, right? So they continue to do this. What is helpful for people who need to understand because they feel bad, they care about this person, they feel bad for this person, they know this person's really sad and pathetic, and you don't want to leave those relationships because you feel bad. Know this is the thing that you have. This is how I help people get out, and it takes a long time to sink it in. So sometimes I have to repeat this a lot of times, but this is gold. Know that it's not good for them, you staying. They say that, and it seems like that. It seems like you're supporting them, but you're allowing them to stay stuck, and they're not living their potential either. So you need to leave so that they open to the fact that this is not how to live by controlling everybody. Sometimes they'll just find somebody else to control, and sometimes they'll transform. But you staying there is not helping them. Sometimes that's the only way I could convince someone to leave is because they feel so bad. But you staying does not, you continue to talk to someone after you leave them is not helping them. Does not help them. For a moment, it's like an addiction, right? You keep, you know, if that person kept having more alcohol, they'd feel okay for the moment, but their life doesn't change. They don't get better. So it's like if you're available for them to siphon off support from you, they're not changing. It's just a hit, and they just need it again, and it's unsustainable. They need it again and need it again. You're not helping them. It's not like your love makes them feel loved, and then they're fine. Doesn't work in these kind of relationships. Does not work. Hi, Stanley. Good to see you. So does anyone else have any questions? I don't see any other questions up here that anyone's asked today. But who is in a relationship or has been in the past, would like to express some support of other people watching, who has any other questions? Because we could be in toxic relationships, yeah, with substances, with people, with our job or how much we work, With our clients, of course, we could be in toxic relationships sometimes with our clients, or codependent relationships with our parents, our siblings, our coworkers. I mean, these kind of relationships could be anywhere, or our significant relationships, which I guess makes it that. Our kids, if we're parents, sometimes we have relationships with our kids like this. I thought it was a little bit of an interesting topic on International Women's Day to talk about relationships, because a lot of times women take the biggest burden of these kind of relationships, or everyone in the minority categories. So Nikki says, some toxic people, you have no choice but to live with them. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you have no choice whether to live with them. That makes sense. Sometimes, especially when you're young. Sometimes you are making a conscious choice to stay with them. Whether you know it or not, you're making a conscious choice. And so sometimes you're in transition of figuring out how to not live with them anymore. And that could take a while. But yeah, so, and then you have to figure out how. So there's some people, like if we're caring for our elderly parents and they have Alzheimer's, and some, I mean, this is one example because there's a lot of different kind of examples, but if they, because of Alzheimer's, sometimes people get mean or bitter or something like that. I know this is not what you're talking about, Nikki, but sometimes sometimes you're choosing consciously that, yes, I know what's going on and I'm not going to let this in my heart. Of course, you're human and it still will sometimes, but you also have that awareness that that's not them, or that's not what they're doing. But a lot of time, most of the time, when we're living with conscious people, with people who we're in toxic relationships with, I'm trying not to label people, but if we're living in the same household with someone we're in not a good relationship with, in a relationship where either we hurt each other or they hurt us, that is damaging to your sense of self or your sense of self-worth, then a lot of times there could be a change. You might not see it or decide that it's for you, or you could just manage it. So you decide, well, I'll just manage it. I'm fine. And so you have to realize that sometimes it is a conscious choice to be doing that, and that it's not necessity. Of course, there's a lot of times when there is no other choice, either for financial reasons or for temporary safety concerns, or there is a lot of reasons why you can't, that there is not a choice. There's no other options. Like if someone was holding you against your will, or you were in a country where women didn't have rights, those kind of ways that there is no choice whatsoever sometimes. But sometimes, like, it's like a parent and the kids, and you think, oh, I can't, I want to unconditionally love my kids. And sometimes it's a toxic relationship. And so you have to, you say, I can't not do this. That language is going to make you feel disempowered, because maybe you're choosing it consciously and you will continue to choose it consciously and you want it. But any kind of victimizing language, it may or may not be true. So you really want to look at, is it true, or is it what I've decided is what I want? And then use different language around it, because that'll make a huge difference in what you let into your heart. And so that'll make a huge difference. All right, everyone. 50 Violet says, the title reminded me of this song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Yeah. How to get out of toxic relationships. Let me summarize. Community, get a community around you. Start to plan. Even before you're ready, start to plan, because that's going to build your confidence up. And also, we want a good plan, for safety reasons, and to keep us robust, feeling robust. And while you're planning that, keep practicing not letting that meanness or hurtful ways into your heart while you're planning to get out. And this is the biggie. If it's hard to leave a relationship because you feel bad for the other person, or you feel like, or they're making you feel bad, know that it's not good for them. Stop telling yourself that you're letting them down or abandoning them, or it's not good for them, for you to stay, for them to be in that relationship where they control you, is not good for their higher self in any way, shape, or form. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, Emma says it upsets her when you can't make time for, people can't make time for you. They only think of themselves. Yeah. And we're talking about people who are very selfish here, aren't we? We're talking about people who are very selfish, whether they mean to be or not. There could be a lot of reasons for someone to be really selfish, but it does hurt the people around them, doesn't it? In so many different ways. All right, well, Sean, Sean says, my videos have helped me. Your videos have helped me tremendously, madame. Madame. Thanks, Sean. I'm so glad. So glad. All right. Well, I'll see you next Monday. Oh, everybody, jodieman.com/earth, come into my school. Yeah, I'm going to get some groups coming out pretty soon. So come on in. It's a free school to come in. There's some free content in there. There's videos in my blog. There's a couple free courses, and then there's a community feed where we could support each other. That's just getting started. I just opened it a week ago. So it's building some momentum up, and I'm going to have some more small groups and more courses coming out for you, but it's still free to be in there. And so everyone join jodieman.com/earth, jodieman.com/earth. All right. So I'll see you next Monday. Bye.